The stadium wasn't supposed to shake that day. Not for a local exhibition game. Not for a soft, harmless rubber ball baseball match where pitches usually flutter in at gentle speeds. But everything changed the moment a tall, quiet 31-year-old left-handed pitcher stepped onto the mound, a man who once wore a Yakult Swallows uniform, and who carried a secret the crowd had forgotten. Before anyone could whisper his name, he wound up. And then it happened. A scream of wind. A violent snap. A sound like the air itself cracked open. The radar gun blinked. First once. Then again. But the number didn't change. 153 kilometers per hour. Softball. Rubber ball. Not even supposed to be possible. People froze. Some laughed, thinking the machine was broken. Others leaned forward, squinting, as if their eyes were lying. And a very few, immediately understood. This wasn't an ordinary arm. This was a man who used to terrify professional hitters. A man who once trained for stadiums, spotlights, and cameras, not quiet fields and folding chairs. But here he was, in the middle of a small town park, throwing a rubber ball harder than most professionals throw a leather one. And the batter, he just stood there, shaking his head, realizing he might never see that pitch again. Somewhere beyond the dugout, a kid whispered, "Dad, was that real?" And the dad didn't answer. Because he didn't know. The pitcher's teammates gathered behind the fence, disbelief spreading across every face. They expected him to take it easy. This was supposed to be fun. A hobby. A return to childhood baseball, nothing more. But that pitch was a message. He stepped back on the mound. The whispers in the stands grew louder. Is that really him? I thought he retired. Why is he here? What is he trying to prove? But maybe he wasn't proving anything. Maybe he was rediscovering something he thought he'd lost the moment he left the big leagues. The catcher was trembling. Not from fear. From adrenaline. From the kind of electricity you only feel when you realize you're part of something you'll tell your friends about for the rest of your life. The pitcher glanced in. The catcher nodded. And the world seemed to pause. Another windup. Another violent exhale of power. The ball tore through the air so fast the rubber shell visibly shuddered, fighting to stay whole. Another 153 kilometers per hour. Exactly the same. Now the crowd wasn't whispering. It was buzzing, alive, roaring, crackling like fire catching on dry wood. Old scouts in the back row exchanged glances. One pulled out his phone and started recording. Another simply muttered, "I've never seen that. Not with a soft ball. Not ever." The batter stepped out. He wasn't scared. He was honored. This was a front row seat to something miraculous. The pitcher took a slow breath. His fingers brushed across the ball. Soft. Too soft. A ball not designed for power, speed, or violence. And yet, in his hand, it became a weapon again. All around the field, memories rushed back to him. Night games under bright lights. Cheers that echoed through Tokyo. Expectations that felt heavier than any ball he ever threw. He remembered the day he left the league. People said his best days were behind him. That his arm had given everything it had. But today, here, in this humble field, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Freedom. Pure, unfiltered, indescribable freedom. He lifted his leg and fired once more. This time, the ball exploded out of his hand so violently that the sound echoed off the metal bleachers. The radar gun didn't even beep. It just flashed a single word. Error. The crowd erupted. People stood up. They didn't just cheer, they screamed. They knew they had witnessed something that wouldn't be repeated. Something that shouldn't be repeated. Something that defied logic, science, and maybe even the integrity of the rubber ball itself. The pitcher lowered his head, almost embarrassed. He wasn't here to show off. He wasn't here to reclaim a throne or chase a contract. He was here because he loved the game. Even in its simplest form. Even with a rubber ball. Even with a crowd of hundreds instead of thousands. His teammates ran to him, shouting, laughing, slapping his back like they'd just won a championship. One of them yelled, "Dude, what are you?" And he smiled, the kind of smile only athletes make when they know they've just surprised even themselves. No cameras. No reporters. No interviews. Just a field, a ball, and an arm that refused to forget its past. As the game ended and the sun dipped behind the stands, a soft breeze carried the lingering excitement across the field. One of the scouts walked over, shaking his head. "You know," he said quietly, "I've been in baseball for 40 years. I thought I'd seen everything." He paused. "But today, I saw something new." The pitcher didn't respond. He didn't need to. His silence was filled with meaning. A silent reminder that legends don't always vanish. Sometimes they just change fields. As he packed his bag and walked toward the parking lot, the crowd still buzzing behind him, he glanced back at the mound. It wasn't a stadium mound. It wasn't sacred ground. It was just dirt. But today, just for a moment, it had become a doorway back to who he once was, and who he still could be. And maybe that was the real miracle. Not the speed, not the shock, not the whispers of impossible physics. But the simple truth. Some arms never forget. Some hearts never quit. And some stories are too powerful to stay in the past.